After being forced to live in New San Francisco without his partner, John starts training for the tournament where he will compete against the best drivers in the country. While pretending to live life as an ordinary citizen, the man looks for ways to cross the city walls to meet Quiet. However, during one of his escape attempts, John takes a bad fall and ends up breaking his arm, which hinders his pilot training. Realizing that his pilot is trying to escape, Raven sends more and more guards to escort him on a daily basis and prevent his escape, but even so, John keeps finding loopholes to try another escape. What the man doesn't realize is that the real Raven has several other extensions of herself scattered around New San Francisco to help her control the population. While Alpha Raven is at Kelly's bar, Beta is sent to lead the community meeting in Golden Gate Park and Gamma is ordered to end the work stoppage at the pier. When he meets the real Raven, John soon realizes that she's even worse than the one he first met and gets a scolding for trying to run away instead of focusing his energy on training, as the tournament could start at any moment. During the conversation, John discovers why Raven is so intent on winning that tournament, because she wants to bring Kelly back. To prevent any further escape attempts, Raven makes a new daily schedule and says that from now on, John is grounded. If before he had complete freedom to move around the city, now his routine will be to train, go home and sleep, nothing more. Meanwhile, in Molesto, where the workers are forced to remain productive so as not to get a bullet in the head, a raid takes place and a group of masked women eliminate almost everyone inside to steal medicine. When they meet the site's head of operations, the dolls discover that the factory has stopped producing medicine for the insiders who live in the cities. When she finds out that the man can't help them, Krista burns his face mercilessly and even takes a photo to record the victim's condition. That afternoon, Sweet Tooth and Stu violently attack 3 innocent people to steal their belongings. During the attack, Stu decides to leave his victim alive, but the clown finishes the job by ripping out the man's heart with his bare hands. After his TV is confiscated as part of his punishment for trying to escape, John spends the whole afternoon reading the books on his bookshelf and discovers a new hobby. However, while reading, he realizes that edition 89 is missing and starts desperately looking for it, as he doesn't want to miss any detail of the story. After invading Molesto and eliminating all the people found inside, Krista and all the dolls return to the shelter and throw a party. Ever since she split up with John, Quiet has been taken in by that group of women and takes part in all the missions, even though she's not in favor of all that gratuitous violence. So, when she finds out that Krista and her group intend to destroy the walls surrounding the cities in order to steal supplies, the woman begins to worry, as she knows that several innocent lives will be destroyed in the process. When he finally finds issue 89, John discovers that the book has been destroyed as a hiding place for cigarettes. He then decides to read the diary of Krista, who lived in that room, and discovers that she was obsessed with horses. Leafing through the notebook, John finds a map drawn by his sister that leads to the sewers and plans to use that route to escape. The next day, when Chester shows up to take the pilot to his next class, John convinces him to get into the bathtub so that the noise of the water prevents Raven from overhearing the conversation. At that moment, he talks about Krista's map and says that they can use that route to escape the city. However, Chester says that he doesn't want to leave, as he knows that life is much harder on the outside. However, John manages to convince him to flee with a beautiful speech about freedom and they both begin their escape plan. Meanwhile, Quiet decides to have a chat with Krista about her invasion plan and says she's worried about what will happen to the other girls. If they invade the city, Dana, Ashley and all the other dolls will put their lives at risk, as they will be facing a battalion of armed soldiers. However, Krista knows that this is the only way to level the playing field and get the insiders out of their rosy world. After discovering that Big Baby is the most notorious criminal around, Sweet Tooth decides to go after him and the two start a fight. While Big Baby uses his umbilical cord to hit the clown, his mother attacks Stu, but ends up being knocked out. Seeing that cord crossing right in front of him, Sweet Tooth decides to cut it and, just as he's about to eliminate his enemy, the clown discovers that there's another criminal more famous than him. According to Big Baby, Trash Man is the most feared guy around, so Sweet Tooth decides to go after him, but first he uses his opponent's cord to hang him. Before getting into the van, Stu realizes that the clown is annoyed at not getting the recognition he would like, so he suggests that he promote a contest where Sweet Tooth will duel the biggest criminals in the country. That way, after eliminating all his competitors, Sweet Tooth will be recognized as the greatest criminal of all time. To put his plan into action, John breaks into Raven's garage and finds Kelly's body inside an ambulance. Apparently, the woman is in a coma and Raven is hatching a plan to try and bring her back. Just then, John spots some TV screens and hears Calypso inviting the best drivers in the world to a tournament that will take place the following week. The last competitor standing will be crowned the big winner and have a wish granted. So Raven needs John to win this contest, so she can use his wish to save Kelly. When she discovers that John has stolen the ambulance to escape, Raven despairs, but soon finds out that he has left Kelly behind and is relieved. When she hears Calypso announcing the start of the tournament, Quiet convinces the dolls to take part, because if they win they'll be able to use their wish to break down all the walls. As he's about to leave the city, John is surrounded by 2 cars that start shooting at his vehicle and he tries to find an escape route. Just then, he spots a truck coming the other way and sees 2 masked women firing missiles in his direction. Instead of hitting the ambulance, they blow up the vehicles and, soon afterwards, Krista discovers that the vehicle her gang intends to ransack is being driven by her brother. At this point, John is pursued, but manages to escape even though his vehicle is being shot at. Suddenly, he spots his old car approaching and has an accident when the ambulance is hit by a missile. Luckily, John survives and, as he climbs out through the windshield, he is shot by Quiet and the woman is surprised to see him. Soon afterwards, his sister appears, but John can't recognize her and collapses after being hit by Ashley. 10 years ago, Krista and her boyfriend meet with the members of the council to do business, but the woman is asked to leave the meeting and meets with the girlfriends of the other members of that group. After a few minutes of conversation, Miranda stands up with a revolver in her hand and reveals that her boyfriend has ordered her to eliminate all the women so that he can take control of the supplies. Realizing that Miranda doesn't want to do that, Krista tries to negotiate with her and says that they can take control of everything if they decide to unite. After convincing the women to come together to dethrone their partners, they steal their weapons and start a slaughter. In this way, Krista began to form the group that almost took her brother's life. When he wakes up, John is confronted by Ashley, who is convinced that he is a spy. Otherwise, he would never have managed to escape from New San Francisco on his own. So the woman decides to torture John to force him to open his mouth, but before she has a chance to start the interrogation, Quiet and Krista show up. After freeing her boyfriend, Quiet introduces Krista and claims that she is his sister. Unsure if this information is real, John decides to hug her, as he knows that pretending to believe this woman is his best chance of surviving in the doll's hideout. Even if Krista really is his sister, John has no memory of her, which makes her a complete stranger. Nevertheless, at his girlfriend's request, he decides to try to get close to Krista and give them a chance to become friends again. That afternoon, John recovers his old car and is happy to discover that Quiet has made some upgrades to the vehicle. Excited to get on with his life alongside Quiet, John reveals that his grandfather had a cabin in the mountains and invites her to come with him. However, the woman refuses to leave, as they now have a goal to fight for and she's not willing to give it up. When he finds out that Quiet is going to take part in the tournament, John tries to talk her out of it, because he knows that it's a certain elimination. However, when the woman reveals why she wants to win the race, John realizes that she won't change her mind, as she is determined to break down all the walls protecting the cities. So he decides to volunteer to drive in her place and Krista decides to promote a battle to choose the driver best prepared to represent the dolls in the competition. The first person to cross the finish line will be the winner, so the competitors speed off and try to cross the minefield without being hit by the explosions. Halfway across, the trio are surprised by bursts of paint that spread across the windshield, covering their entire view. Luckily, John manages to wash the windows of his car when he crosses a puddle of water and makes his way to the finish line. Just as he's about to complete the course, Ashley runs over a minefield and her vehicle is destroyed in the explosion. After passing through numerous bombs unscathed, the couple begin a personal dispute and, in an attempt to complete the final stretch in the shortest time possible, Quiet activates turbo mode. Despite succeeding in the challenge, the woman suffers a serious accident and her car is destroyed. Seeing that she's okay, John is relieved, but worries when he sees his girlfriend has been chosen to represent the dolls in the tournament. At that moment, Quiet realizes that Mayhem has disappeared and goes into the forest to look for her with John. When the couple finally find the girl, they realize they've been ambushed. After cutting the chains, Quiet orders Mayhem to flee and shoots at their enemies. However, the cavemen manage to dodge the bullets and John is forced to enter the fray. After knocking down his adversary, Quiet takes back her axe and lops off her enemy's head with a single blow. Impressed by his partner's new skills, John congratulates her on the progress she has made in recent months and says that, although he doesn't agree with the idea of taking part in the tournament, he will be there cheering her on. At that moment, Quiet invites him to take part in the competition with her and John immediately accepts. That night, Garrett and his brother break into a cemetery and start digging up a grave, but they don't find the coffin. Just then, Grim appears, and after eliminating them, the man steals their souls and digs some more until he finds the motorcycle he will use in the tournament. The competition is only 2 days away and Krista leads the dolls to Diesel City to get more weapons. Along the way, the woman orders her team to take a rest break and decides to take a detour to have more time to talk to her brother. Taking advantage of being alone in her car, Quiet decides to drive around while listening to her favorite DVD, and suddenly hears Mayhem's voice. Terrified, the woman stops the vehicle and gets out to look in the trunk. Furious, she asks what Mayhem is doing there and starts laughing when she finds out that the girl is planning to take part in the tournament. At this point, Mayhem retorts and claims to be an excellent driver, so Quiet orders her to take the wheel and show her what she can do to prove she's telling the truth. When she realizes that the girl has no idea what she's doing, Quiet orders her to get out of the car, but instead Mayhem tries to start it up again to make off with it. However, as she doesn't even know how to change gear, the young woman barely manages to get out of the car and Quiet takes the opportunity to mock her. After a few minutes on the road, Krista and her brother arrive at the Millennium Drive-In and John refuses to enter the place because he has no idea what awaits him inside. According to Krista, when she and her brother were children, their family took a break there during a trip and John became obsessed with that movie theater. He enjoyed watching movies in the car so much that he insisted that his parents take him there every summer. Even after hearing this story, John refuses to go into that haunted place, but changes his mind when his sister calls him a coward. It's getting dark when the pair walk through the abandoned cinema and get into an old car to watch a movie. Seeing her brother apprehensive, Krista claims that there's no one there but them, but the truth is that she's completely wrong, as they've both been watched since they arrived. When she realizes that the projector isn't working, the woman starts talking about the past in the hope of helping John recover at least some of his memories. At this point, he reveals that he doesn't want to recover his memories, as this could make him feel even worse and guilty about everything he's lost. To avoid this, John prefers to leave his past behind and live in the present, without thinking about the family he left behind decades ago. Suddenly, the vehicle in which the two siblings are sheltering begins to be shot at and they try to escape so as not to be eliminated. However, just as they are about to leave the drive-in, they are both pushed back by some unknown force and see the surrounding lights come on. Then, two nearby vehicles explode, and amidst the flames, Axel appears, standing on top of a gigantic machine that moves on two wheels. At the sight of him, the two siblings feel confused but decide to run, as they soon realize that this guy has a menacing look in his eyes. While taking cover behind an abandoned vehicle, John grabs his gun to fire at his enemy, but Axel protects himself with one of the wheels and the bullet bounces off, grazing Krista's face. At this point, John decides to change his strategy and orders his sister to run while he shoots. After hitting one of the tires, the man follows Krista to a hiding place and they both remain silent so as not to attract the attention of their enemy. When she realizes that they have managed to lose Axel, they breathe a sigh of relief and Krista accuses her brother of shooting her in the face. To avoid a future scar, the woman decides to treat the wound without any anesthesia and John is impressed by her courage. While the pair fight for their survival, Quiet tries to give Mayhem some driving lessons so that she can take part in the tournament. After failing several tests, the young woman is subjected to a final test in which she has to drive under pressure with a gun pointed at her head. Seeing the girl fail yet another test, Quiet tells her she's not good at driving and advises her to give up the championship. Frustrated with her poor performance, Mayhem gets out of the vehicle and returns to the trunk, where she feels she should never have left. After closing her wound, Krista begins to think of a new plan to get to her car without attracting Axel's attention, and they cross the entire parking lot in the hope of going unnoticed. Luckily, Axel can't detect them and gets out of his two-wheeler to treat his wounds. At that moment, John pulls out his gun and plans to fire again to try and eliminate him once and for all. However, when he sees his adversary feeding on gasoline, the man realizes that he is no ordinary human and wonders how he is still alive. Curious to find out what this guy is, Krista takes advantage of his distraction to break into his hideout and discovers that he is a kind of cyborg with metal arms. While investigating the place, Krista is attacked and taken prisoner. Seeing a madman threatening to eliminate his sister, John puts the gun on the counter and, during a brief conversation, discovers that the old man is the scientist responsible for turning Axel into a monster. His research consists of merging human beings and cars so that they can become their own vehicles. On hearing this, the two siblings have confirmation that they are dealing with a completely lunatic guy, and as soon as Krista manages to free herself, John attacks him. When they look through of the window, the pair discover that the old man has fallen on a metal cylinder that has gone through his torso and wiped him out. At this point, Krista rushes to cut the power and informs Axel that he is free to escape, as the shape field that was keeping him trapped in that place has been switched off. On discovering that Mayhem plans to win the tournament in order to live a better life, Quiet decides to try to teach her once more, and during the lesson, they see Jeremy's body creepily walking towards them. Grim then appears and uses his sword to eliminate the victim. Seeing the man stealing her friend's soul, Quiet orders Mayhem to turn around and flee as quickly as possible. During the chase, they both come across Axel running towards them, and the girl swerves her vehicle off the road to avoid an accident. As a result, instead of hitting them, Grim ends up hitting the cyborg and the two start a duel. Thanks to this chance, the pair manage to escape and drive to meet Krista and John to inform them of what happened. After discovering that Ashley and Jeremy have been eliminated, the two siblings get into their car to drive away, and the next morning, they hold a farewell funeral for their friends. That day, the group manages to reach Diesel City, so Krista begins to think of a plan to invade and loot the city where the most powerful weapons available on the market are sold. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.